Hello guys, welcome back to another exciting video. So in this video, you're going to be learning working with a data extraction framework for LLMs. So basically a data framework that can help you to process data, extract data from different sources, whether be it either structured data or unstructured data, audio, video files, you just name it. Indexify can help you do all that. So this library is called Indexify, and Indexify is a data framework for LLMs, help you to extract data coming from different variety of formats, either structured, unstructured, audio, video, PDFs, websites, you just name it. Helps you to extract all this data, pre-process this data, so that like creating embeddings, creating chunks. You can build a pipeline for all these processes using Indexify, and then from there, your LLM applications can consume these APIs, or sorry, can consume this data source that you have created through the extraction process using Indexify. Okay, so Indexify is a really awesome library, and in this case, you're going to go ahead and learn how to use Indexify. So let's go over and look at what you're going to cover in this video. So we're going to cover working with the structured instructions, working with chunks, extracting embeddings. Okay, yeah, all this is going to be done using the Indexify pipeline. They're called graph extraction graphs in Indexify specifically. We're going to be working with storing embeddings in a vector database, in this case LanceDB. We're going to be retrieving extracted entities using an LLM, building a simple RAG application using two LLMs, one with OpenAI, another one with Mistral, and I'm going to show you how to do all this. You're also going to be using Llama-index as well as just or LLM orchestration framework. You're also going to go ahead and interact with our visual website, basically UI that Indexify comes with right off the box. You don't have to do anything to get this UI. This UI you can open it in your browser, examine the different extraction processes, and then examine everything, get information of everything that you have done, your whole data pipeline. It's just really awesome. So let's get into it. So what project are we trying to build? There's an overview of the project. So basically, we want to create a data extraction pipeline that is going to be able to extract data from the internet. In this case, you're going to be working with Wikipedia specifically, but you can work with any data source from the internet. So we're going to extract data from the internet, and you're going to pass this data into our Indexify pipeline. So in Indexify pipeline, this pipeline can have different, like they're called extraction policies, and these extraction policies can do different things. Like for example, in this case, you're going to do two different things. You're going to have one extraction policy that is going to be called that's going to do name entity recognition using an LLM. In this case, you're going to be using OpenAI Extractor. You're also going to be using the chunk. Extractor. This is another pipeline, and then after chunking the text, you're going to pass it to another worker, which is going to go ahead and create embeddings. After the embeddings are created, we're going to pass it now into our LanceDB. So that's basically the pipeline that we're going to do. After we have the LanceDB vector database, we can then connect it to, we can then build on top of it using things like OpenAI, Mistral, Llama-index, LangChain, you just name it. So we're going to build a simple RAG application, and the UI for the RAG application is going to be powered by Streamlit. So that's basically the project that I want us to build. Basically, I'll focus on teaching you how to build this pipeline and how to use the pipeline. Okay, so you can also see an image here having the UI, but don't worry, I know that it's not very clear. We'll see this later on in the video. Okay, now let's look at the table of content or the list of things that I'm going to be covering in this video. So we're going to be looking at what is Indexify. You're going to look at the project overview. You're going to download the Indexify server. You're going to go ahead and work with installing dependencies, installing Indexify extractors. That's going to help us to extract data. You're going to work with, you're going to learn about creating our own data extraction pipelines. You're going to do data ingestion, right? Extract the data and then ingest it into a vector database. In this case, querying the Indexify to get like the entities that have been extracted, the chunks, the different embeddings, and so much, right? So we're also going to be learning about building a RAG application powered by OpenAI, and then also another RAG application powered by Mistral and Llama-index. Okay, all this you're going to have a UI for all of them using OpenAI. Okay, so that's basically it. And then after that, you're going to go over to the conclusion section, whereby we'll do a wrap of the video, and then end up things from there, right? So let's go ahead and see what's next. So now let's look at what is Indexify. So the first thing I'm going to cover is just an introduction to Indexify. What is really Indexify? Okay, so Indexify is an open source data framework that includes a real-time extraction engine and ready-made extraction adapters. It provides reliable out-of-the-box extraction for all types of unstructured data, including documents, presentations, videos, and audios, right? So that's basically what Indexify does. Okay, so we can extract data from the internet. So that's basically what Indexify is. So it helps us to extract data from different sources, like from PDF files, from the web internet, from books, from videos, right? Books to be PDFs, right? From videos, from audio sources. Indexify can you can build a pipeline in Indexify, and that can do all that data extraction for you. Store the data, store the extracted data somewhere like in a vector database, and then from there build your LLM applications on top of that vector database. So it's just a pipeline that helps you to get data into a vector base, or basically get your data into your LLM application infrastructure, right? So you can think of it like that. So that's basically it. So now we've already looked at the project overview already. So basically, extract data from the internet, pass this data into an Indexify pipeline, create chunks, create embeddings for each of these chunks, identify the name entity recognition, so that in a vector database, and then we build a RAG application on top of that. That's going to be having a UI of Streamlit UI, right? So you can see it right here. So that's basically what you're trying to build in this video. And in the whole process, I'll focus mainly on explaining to you how Indexify comes into all of this. Okay, so now let's look at the first thing we're going to go ahead is downloading the Indexify server. So to download the Indexify server, you can use this command right here. Okay, so just go in your terminal and type out this command. So let's just go in my terminal. I have my terminal open right here. And you can see I'm in a folder called tutorials/Indexify intro, and I'm in there in that folder. So once I'm inside of that folder, I'm going to go ahead and run this command. It's called curl. And then once you say curl, you're going to say curl, you're going to say https colon 2/. You're going to go ahead and simply say get indexify .ai and then pipe symbol and then sh. So that's basically the command curl https colon 2/, get indexify.ai space pipe symbol, the pipe symbol, space again, and then sh. So once you have that, you just run this command. This is going to go ahead and download the Indexify server onto your local machine. So just give it a bit of time to download that Indexify server. It depends on how fast your computer is and how fast your internet is as well. Okay, so let me just make sure my computer is actually in performance mode. Perfect. Okay, so let's give it, now it depends on my internet, right? Because I'm at the maximum capability of my computer. Okay, so once this is downloaded, you just have to wait for this to download. Okay, so let's give it a bit of time. Awesome, so that's done downloading. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the terminal. And if I do an ls, I don't mind this VNV folder. I would explain to you why I have it right there. But in your case, you shouldn't have this folder, okay? So in your case, you shouldn't have this folder. You should only have this file right here. And this can be executed. So just go ahead and say ./indexify. And then finally, you're going to say server and then -d. Just passing that command right there. And it's going to go ahead and start the Indexify server running on your machine. That's awesome. So that's all we need. So once we have this done, you have to leave this running throughout the whole tutorial. So, or throughout the whole process you want to work with Indexify. So I'm going to go ahead and open another terminal while we leave this one running. So make sure that you leave this one running, or else you have issues. So make sure you leave this terminal running. Open a new terminal, this one right here. Let me just make this bigger so you guys can see. So I have a new terminal open with the old one running Indexify server, right? Good. So let me just go back in here. So we have done these two steps, right? So we have gotten the Indexify server, and you're also running the Indexify server. Awesome. So now let's look at installing the dependencies that we need. So we need a couple of dependencies. So we're going to go ahead and create a virtual environment, and then from the virtual environment, you're going to activate it and install a couple of dependencies. Okay. So now make sure you're in a new terminal again. Let me just repeat that again. Make sure that you're in a new terminal, a terminal that is different from the terminal that is running an Indexify server. Okay. Okay, so to create a virtual environment, just follow these commands right here. I've already created my virtual environment, and that's why I have this folder called, if I do ls, you can see I have a folder called VNV, right? So my virtual environment is already created, and how to create that is use this command right here, the first command. So I'm going to skip that just to save you on time. So once it's done, I'm going to go ahead and activate my virtual environment using the second command. So I'm going to go ahead and say source vnv/bin/activate. That's going to go ahead and activate my virtual environment. So I have a conda running, so let me conda environment. So I just deactivate it. In your case, don't worry if you don't have conda, it's fine. Just write source, this command right here, and then press enter, and that's going to go ahead and activate your virtual environment. Let me just deactivate again my conda environment. Okay, so some reason it's refusing to activate. So let me just open a new terminal right here. And let me just close this one right here, and then and then let me just make it a bit smaller. So conda deactivates. Again, you just keep this step, right? So that has anything to do with the tutorial. It's just they have conda installed. So just run this command source vnv/bin/activate, and then press enter. And this is going to activate for you a Python virtual environment. And how do you know the Python virtual environment is activated? You can see the name of the folder, VNV, and this is the folder that we have right here, right? You can see the name of this folder in the beginning of the line within parentheses in your terminal. That shows that your environment is activated. Awesome. So once you have the environment activated, again, run this other command to install all these other dependencies. So just say pip3 install Indexify -extractor -SDK, Indexify, Wikipedia, OpenAI, LangChain _ community. Run this command to install all these dependencies. I've already done them because it can take a bit of time to do that. So just to save on time, I have already done this and all this are already installed. So I'm going to go back in here. So once I'm in here, I can do a pip freeze, and then pip freeze, and then press enter. So that's you can see all these are installed right here. So you can just inspect it. Okay, in my case, so I have Indexify already installed. So if I go see if I can get the iPad. Okay, so Indexify, so you can see that we have Indexify already installed right here, right? So we have all these libraries already installed just to save us on time. So I'm going to skip to the next part. In your case, you have to run this command and wait for it to install, right? Again, you're doing all this in a different terminal that is different from the one which is running our Indexify server. Keep this in mind, it's very important. Okay, so once we have that, now you're going to go ahead and install the Indexify extractor. So this extractor just basically do what the name suggests: extract information. Extractors. That's basically what you have to know. So that's basically it. So this, you just run these commands to install the different the extractors that you want. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just run the following: Indexify extractor download TensorLake. So Indexify belongs to a bigger company called TensorLake. Okay, so that's why we have TensorLake / OpenAI, TensorLake / mini LM L6, TensorLake, and you get the point, right? So you just have to install this extractor. So basically, the OpenAI extractor that is going to help us to do name entity recognition. You're going to also install the mini LM, which is going to help us do kind of like embeddings and stuff like that. And also going to use the TensorLake chunk extract that's going to help us to generate chunks, right? Remember, we are going to generate chunks and also create embeddings, right? Then the OpenAI part is going to help us generate the name entity recognition. So the OpenAI LLM is going to be, extractor is going to be here, the chunk extractor is here, and then the mini LM6 is going to be here, right? So that's basically it. Okay, so let me just go back in here quickly. So once I'm in here right here, again, forget about this. It's actually not in a new terminal. It's the same terminal that we have open, different from the one that is running our Indexify server. So don't open a new terminal, just run this in the existing terminal that we have open, which is not the one running the Indexify server, right? So good. So once I've already done all this because it can take a bit of time to install. So I've already done all these installations so that we don't waste some time. So another thing you have to do is this command right here: export OpenAI _ API key, and then paste in your equals to, and paste in your OpenAPI key. Okay, so we're going to say export, then OpenAI _ API _ key, and then equals to, and then you go ahead and add in your OpenAPI key right here. Okay, so you can get your OpenAPI key by going to the official documentation. I already demonstrated this in other videos, so I'm not going to go over it, but you can get your OpenAPI key on the OpenAPI official docs. Okay, so once you have that, press enter, and that's going to go ahead and add your OpenAPI key inside of the environment variables of the operating system. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add in my OpenAPI key, and I'll be back recording because I don't want to reveal my OpenAPI key. Okay, so I've added in my OpenAPI key right there, and I execute that command, so we are ready to go. So now the next command is we need to go ahead and start what we call the extractor workers. So basically, the extractor workers are going to be running the different workers that are going to be executing our different extractors. In this case, we have 3 different extractors: the OpenAI extractor, the mini LM extractor, also the chunk extractor. So we need to create a bunch of workers that are going to be executing these extractors. And Indexify does that so simply for us. All we have to do is you just have to run this command: Indexify extractors join _ server. That's going to go ahead and open up our Indexify server for us. So let me just go ahead and show you how you can do this. So going back inside of my terminal again. Remember, this is going to keep on running, which is running our Indexify server. So now I'm going to run the extractors in this terminal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say Indexify -extractors, and then finally join -server, just like that. In Indexify, okay, let me get the spelling there right. Indexify hyphen extractors space join server. So that's basically it. Once we have this running, I can just press enter. So we say Indexify extractors command not found. So let me just examine this command again. So this is not extractors but extractor. Okay, so run this. And it's going to start the Indexify extractor server, basically the extractor workers. That's going to be handle the different workers, extraction workers in this case. So you can see right here we have the available extractors, the OpenAI extractor, the mini LM L-L6 extractor. You also have the chunk extractor. So all this server is going to be running workers that are going to be running these different extractors. Okay. So once that's done, you can see also is running on this port right here. So I don't want to, this port is going to be accessed from our Indexify code whenever you write the code, right? By the Indexify library whenever you write the code. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so once you have that done, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the new terminal. So creating our data extraction pipeline. So now we have our Indexify server running, and also we have the different worker extractors running. So I'm going to go ahead and open a new terminal. These two must keep on running. This must also keep on running. So I'm opening up a new terminal, make this a bit bigger. Okay, so once I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and deactivate my Conda environment again. In your case, if you don't have Conda, then just skip this step. So I'm going to say source vnv/bin/activate. So you need to have this command right here, source vnv, just to activate your virtual environment. So if I press enter, now you can see my virtual environment is activated right here. Good. So once I have my virtual environment activated, now let's move on to the slides right here. So you're going to create a data extraction pipeline. So we have Wikipedia, which is our data source. We're going to get the data from there and then pass this data into our extraction pipeline. So our extraction pipelines can run in parallel, as I mentioned earlier on. So in this case, we have the NER, named entity recognition extractor, which is using the OpenAI extractor. This is going to be running in parallel with another, which is going to be called the chunk extractor and the embedding extractor, the embedding extractor. Because this extractor right here can run in parallel from this other extractor because it doesn't depend on input from this either the chunk extractor or the embedding extractor, so it can run in parallel. But this embedding extractor cannot run in parallel to the chunk extractor because the output of the chunk extractor is passed as into the embedding extractor, which embeds the information and then gets stored in the LanceDB, right? So this process depends on this process, so they can run in parallel. But this process doesn't depend on any of these processes, so it can run in parallel. So that's one of the advantages of Indexify. You can see what processes can run by themselves and do not depend on input from any other process. Those can run in parallel to other processes, right? So that's basically how it works. So in this case, our OpenAI extractor is going to be running in parallel to the chunk extractor and the embedding extractor. So let me just go back right here. So you're going to take our document, our text right here. You're going to split it into two chunks. And then from splitting into chunks, you're going to go ahead and pass each of those chunks into embeddings and then create embeddings of each of those chunks and store them in a vector database. In regards to the OpenAI LLM named entity recognition extractor, is going to be extracting named entities like companies, people, things like that, right? So you're going to use an LLM to extract that information. It doesn't depend on input from anywhere. It just needs the raw data, right, which is available to both of the processes at the very beginning. So it doesn't need to depend on anyone, so it can run in parallel, right? That's basically it. So let's look at some basic terminology. So we're talking about a graph, extraction graph. So extraction graphs are multi-stage data pipelines. I got this right from the official documentation. Data pipelines that transform or extract information from any type of data. They are called extraction graphs because you can create branches in a single pipeline, so they can behave as graphs and not as a linear sequence of stages. So you can have different diversions. So if you look back at this image, you can see we're not following one linear process, right? It has branches, right? There's this branch right here and there's this branch right here. It has branches. So it's the extraction graph. That's why it's called a graph. Okay, now let's talk about the extraction policies. So extraction policies refers to an extractor and binds them into an extraction graph. So this takes an extractor and binds that extractor into an extraction graph. That is called an extraction policy, right? Whatever can take an extractor and binds it into an extraction graph, we call that an extraction policy. They are useful. They are also used to parameterize extractors rather, which provide some knobs and can help you configure things in different ways. When you reach the part of creating these extraction policies, you'll see what I mean by you can customize things in different ways. Okay. So now Once you have this done, so let you go back into our terminal again, and you're going to go ahead and export our OpenAPI key one more time. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back in here, and you're going to go ahead and say export equals export OpenAI underscore API underscore key, and then say equals to, so OpenAI API key equals to, and then I'm going to go ahead and pass in my OpenAPI key. So let me just do that, and I'll be back recording. Okay, so I'm back recording right here, and I've already added my OpenAPI key in there instead of my my OS environment, right? So now that you have done that, now let's go ahead and create a file called create_pipeline.py, and we're going to go ahead and write in the code that's going to go ahead and create for us this pipeline. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to open up my VS Code. Feel free to use any editor that you're comfortable using. So I'm going to be using VS Code. So make sure I have VS Code open. So let me just go ahead and add this right here, so it's much easier to navigate. Okay. So once I have that in there, I'm going to go ahead and create a file. I'm going to call this file, I'm going to call it pipeline graph. So I'm going to say pipeline underscore graph dot YAML. You're going to create a YAML file right here. And inside of this YAML file, you're going to go ahead and define our pipeline. So we'll say name. In the name, you're going to go ahead and simply say the following. So it's going to be name is going to be called to wiki, basically wiki extractor, extraction underscore pipeline. You can give it any name that you want. So wiki extraction pipeline. You're going to go ahead and pass in the different things. You're going to go ahead and pass in extraction underscore this is going to be extraction underscore policies. So extraction policies right here. So let me see, we're getting an error right here. So it says extraction policies, and for this extraction policy, you're going to go ahead and have the following. So we're going to go ahead and add in a bunch of extraction policies. So we have created a graph, and this graph has a bunch of extraction policies. Okay. So now let's go ahead and add in this extraction policy. I'm going to go ahead and say extractor. Basically, we're going to bind an extractor to our extraction graph. So we're going to extractor, and you're going to go give the name to this extractor. In this case, you call it the tensor lake / OpenAI. So we have to have the same name as the ones that we just installed. Remember, we installed these extractors. Yeah. Okay. So I have I have Copilot running. That's what I'm getting though. So don't mind. So once I have it, I'm going to go ahead and simply say name, and in this we can give the name. We're going to call it entity extractor entity underscore entity extractor, just like that, extractor, just like that. Okay, and you're going to give it a bunch of inputs. The input underscore, you're going to pass in the input params. So input params can be a list of parameters that this input can expect, right? So the first one is going to be a system underscore system prompt, and it's going to be basically a prompt that you can pass in right here. So basically, we're going to say extract entities from text and return the output in JSON format. So in JSON format, just like that, in JSON format. So that's basically it. So that's basically the input params that we have right here. We have passing the system prompt param, and the system prompt basically does what the extraction right here. So that's basically it. So once we have this, we're going to go ahead and add in another extraction policy. So another extraction policy, basically this extraction, sorry, my bad right here. So this is actually an extractor, not an extraction policy, because I already specified the policy as the bigger end, and then instead of this policy, you have multiple extractors. So let me just let me just type this out manually so that you can see how the process works, right? So going to be the tensor lake, and this is going to be not the OpenAPI extractor, but now the chunk underscore chunk hyphen extractor. Okay, so that's basically it. So once we have this done, you can just go ahead and pass in the name, which is going to be you can call it the chunker, or let's call it the chunk. Let's call it chunker. You can call it anything that you want. Okay, it doesn't really matter. But we're going to call it chunker, and keep in mind the name of this parameter, because you're going to use it just in a second. So now we have input parameter. I'm going to go ahead and pass in a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and pass in the chunk underscore size. And the chunk size, you're going to use 1000 for the chunk size. You're going to use an overlap. So chunk, we're going to say overlap. And then overlap, you're going to say 100 right there. So we're going to use 100 for the overlap. That's basically it. So once we have that, I'm going to go ahead and basically create another extractor right here. And this is going to be called, we're going to call him, this extractor is going to be the mini mini LM hyphen L6 extractor that we just installed. Okay, so instead of this extractor, you're going to have a bunch of things. You're going to give it a name. I'm going to say name. A name is going to be called wiki embedding. So wiki embedding, basically that's basically it. Wiki embedding. You're going to go ahead and pass in the content for this, the content source, source basically, and the content source is going to be equals to the chunker. Okay. Remember I told you keep in name this to keep in mind the name that you use right here. You're going to use it right here because if I go back into our slice right here, right, the source for this kind of like, let's think of it as node, right? The source of data for this node or this content source is this other node right here, right? So that's basically what you're doing right here. So you're going to create the chunks, and then the output of that chunk is going to be the content source for this other extractor that we have. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So that's basically it. So Wikipedia embeddings, and then the tensor lake 100 chunker extractor, then passing the system prompt, and then it's going to be called the entity extractor, and then the tensor lake / OpenAI, and then we call this one Wikipedia extraction pipeline. So that's basically what we need to do. And let me go ahead and simply save this file. So once I have this YAML file saved, I'm going to go in here, create another file. It's going to be called create _ pipeline.py file. So create pipeline.py file, and this is the file that you're going to be using to create our pipeline. Okay, so now we're going to add in a bunch of code right here. So we need to do to add in the code right here. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here and let's see what we need to do. So I'm going to go in here and simply add in the following piece of code. So I'm going to say from Indexify, I'm going to go ahead and import Indexify client, and also going to go ahead and import extraction graph right here. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and say client is going to be equals to the Indexify client. Okay, so you can pass in here the information on the service URL, the namespace, and all that. But by default, it's going to pick up the default URL. Okay, the default IP address for that client, for that service URL. And you're going to have dev. I'm going to call it create _ extraction _ pipeline. Okay, you're going to have a function right here. So okay, let's call it graph instead of pipeline. So this is going to be a graph instead. So create graph right there, create extraction graph, and you're going to say extraction _ graph is going to be equals to the extraction graph dot, you're going to say extraction graph dot from YAML file, because you're using a YAML file. You can also use a dictionary if you want to, dot from YAML _ file, this one right here. You're going to go ahead and pass in the following. So you're going to go ahead and pass in the file name right here. So let me just close the side panel, and you're going to go ahead and simply pass in the file name right here. And this is going to be called dot / the graph pipeline YAML file that you just created. Okay, awesome. So once you have that, you're going to say client dot create / extraction graph, and then by the you just pass in the extraction graph that you just created right here. That's basically, so we're going to go ahead and simply say if this was called name, you're going to go ahead and simply run that. So that's basically all we need to go ahead and create our pipeline. So we define the pipeline using this YAML file, and you're using this Python code to connect to the client, the Indexify, the server that we have running, and then create this pipeline. So once we have this, I'm going to go back inside of my terminal, do an ls, and then simply do Python 3, and then basically create, okay, and then run that. So that's going to go ahead. I have an error, an issue right here. So let's say okay, this already exists because I was playing with something previously. So let me just go ahead and let's give it a different name. So let me just go ahead and add it here, tutorial, just like that. Okay, so we have this graph name right here. We change it to be tutorial. So let's keep that in mind. So once we have it running, I'm going to go back in here and then let's run this command again. Now that has gone ahead and created for us the extraction, the graph that we have created. So once this is running, let's go ahead and see let's examine the UI that we have. So go inside of your browser and type in localhost. So localhost at port, this is the port right here, 8900 /UI, and then press enter. Okay, so localhost colon 89 /00 /UI /UI, and that bring it to here. So you can see the different extractor that we have. We have the chunk extractor, we have the mini LM extractor, you also have the OpenAI extractor. Okay, so this is basically what we have right here. And if you go into content, for now we have content, but in your case you shouldn't have content because I have content from another project I was creating on. So that's the content right here. But in your case, this should be blank right here, right? So you can see I have two pipelines. This is the first pipeline which I create. I was doing for something else, and now in your case, you should see only this pipeline in your system, right? Only this pipeline, and this is it right here. Okay, awesome. So I used to go to indexes. Now I have the indexes. This is what you're working on. This is a tutorial one. If I click on this right here, you shouldn't see any indexes right here because you haven't created any embeddings. But if you create an embedding, like for the old, okay, let me just go here. If I look at this, we can see I have some indexing, right? That's for a previous project. But in this case, as you're working with this extraction graph right here, you can see I have nothing inside of there. So if I click on this, it's completely empty. Okay, so this is the extraction graphs that we have. This is what you're working with at the moment. This is just something I was playing with. Also have the content right here. This is from the previous project I was working on, but in your case, it should be blank, right? You also have the extractors right here, which is these three extractors we have. Awesome. So once we have this now, let me just go ahead and show you something else. Let's go back into our graph right here. So you can see everything is working fine. Now let's go ahead and then now take the data that you have extracted and now put that data into our vector database. So that's the data ingestion section. So you have going to extract data from Wikipedia, pass it into our graph extraction graph that you just created that has all these extraction policies, and then finally store the data inside of our vector DB. So let's go ahead and see how that process works. So good. So once I have that right there, let me just go into we can go back into our VS Code, and you're going to create a new file right here. So I'm going to go ahead and open my side panel, and then let's go ahead and simply say ingest.py, and let me close block the side panel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add in some bunch of code, right? So I'm going to say from Indexify, import the following. So I'm going to have the Indexify client, the graph extraction, and I'm going to go ahead and say from LangChain underscore community. I'm going to go ahead community.document loaders. I'm going to go ahead and import I'm going to go ahead and import Wikipedia loader, just like that. So, okay, no, this is not the one I want, so it's going to be, I want the class of it, Wikipedia loader, Wikipedia loader. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and create a client. It's going to be the Indexify client. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and simply say load underscore data, and this is going to be load data. You're going to go ahead and pass in the following. So we're going to say doc. You're going to have a documentation variable right here, doc variable, and it's going to be the Wikipedia class. You're going to simply pass in a bunch of parameters. So when you say query, it's going to be equals to, you're going to say you're going to go ahead and simply say player right here, and you're going to also go ahead and simply add the function to say load underscore max. So load max documents. You're going to say just we want to load one specific document. That's all we have. We call the load method on this. Okay, so that's basically it. So once we have this specified in here, I'm going to go ahead and add in the following. So I'm going to go ahead and simply add in a for loop right here. So for doc, let's call this docs because it has a bunch of docs. So for doc in docs, what I want to go ahead and do is the following. So I'm going to go ahead and simply say client dot add underscore documents, and I'm going to go ahead and simply providing the name of the graph that you want to pass this document into. In this case, is this right here, this extraction graph. So I'm going to pass in the name of the extraction graph that you want to pass this document through. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pass this document through an extraction graph. So we have to provide the name of the extraction graph because if you look here, I have many extraction graphs, right? In this case, I want to use this extraction graph. So I want to go ahead and pass in the name of that extraction graph in here. And you're going to simply say doc, sorry, this is going to be /doc page content right there. Okay, so that's all I want to do. I want to have right here, and you're going to go ahead and simply run this if once you're done. So we're going to go ahead and say if underscore, okay, I have this already done for me. So we're going to load data. You're going to go ahead and pass in a name right here. So we're going to go ahead and pass in the name, the query that you want to say. In this place, you can search for, let me just call it query. Okay, instead of player, let me just call it this one, query right here. So I'm going to pass in the query. So query is going to be what you want to search for on Wikipedia. So let's say Python programming language, basically. Okay, and also passing, you can load any information that you want to. So JavaScript Java programming language. So you can pass it any information that you want to extract details from basically anything that you type into Wikipedia. That's basically it. So once we have this running, again, make sure that you have exported your OpenAPI key inside of this terminal. So once we have that code already set up, so let's go back into our terminal right here. And instead of our terminal, we're going to do Python 3. And then we're going to go and simply run that file, which is ingest.data.py. So make sure that you have your OpenAPI key exported within this terminal as well. So press enter. And that's going to go ahead and ingest the data, run the data through the whole pipeline, which is this process right here. Run all these are going to run in parallel, do all this chunking, embeddings, and then go storing the content, right? So all that is going to execute whenever you run this code. So just give it a bit of time and that can, okay, now it's done already. So let me go back into my dashboard right here. Let me just refresh this page. So if I go ahead and click on this right here, you can see now it has some content inside. Previously it wasn't having any content, but now, okay, this is the progress in progress in progress. So let's give it a bit of time. So this is the chunker, so it says it's in progress. So let's give it a bit of time to see if this is going to get done. Okay, so now you can see it's completed and you can see all the information has been passed in right here. So you can click on this and you can see what has been extracted. So in 1997, some blah, 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 about Java. Okay, so you can read about through all that. I don't want to waste your time. So you can see how this whole pipeline thing works. Okay, so if you go and look at the extractor, you can see the extractor's content and you can see the different content right here, right? So if I click on this, this is right here. You can see the information right here, right? So okay, that's basically it. So this is the information from one of the previous projects I was working on. So let me just go ahead and look for something that I have. So you can just navigate through. Let me go to the last ones right here and then click on this. This one is again talking about, okay, this is also some of the old projects. And let me just navigate all the way back here. Okay, let me just click on this one. Okay, this is all something from the old project as well. So yeah, so that's basically it. So but I hope you get the idea. I hope I have more time to go through this little by little to find what I want to do. So this is on 7th, so the other ones was on 6th. So let me just expand this. So again, it looks like I have an issue with my OpenAPI key. I think I didn't pass in the OpenAPI key, but if you pass in the OpenAPI key, that should work perfectly for you. So let's just not. Okay, you can see this one right here. This one works fine. So okay, so you can see that's all that information, right? This was some previous project I was working with from yesterday. Okay, so yeah, that's basically it, how you can extract information and have it embedded inside of this your database right here. So that's basically it. Okay, so once we have this done, I'm going to go back in here. Let's take a look at this one right here. And let me click on this one so you can see this is microsystems or Java perfectly. So everything works perfectly. And yeah, that's basically how you can extract information from online, create embeddings, and have it all stored in the proper places for you. Okay, so now once you have that line, make sure that you have this one running and also you have this one running. So if you don't have this running, that shouldn't have worked for you. You should have gotten an error. But if you have that, you didn't get any error, that shows everything is okay. Okay, so now let's move ahead and let's move on to the next steps. Okay, now we can also query this. Let me just go back in here. Let's see. Okay, you have done all these steps already. So you can also query this. You've already seen the UI already, so that's also fine. So now let's learn how to query Indexify. So we are using the UI to query it, right? What if you want to query this programmatically instead of your Python code? So you can also do that. And to do that, actually, there are many ways where you want to query your data, right? So if you're writing a program, you don't want to always to go in the UI and try to work it from there, right? You can also programmatically interact with this Indexify and query information, such as running SQL queries, performing semantic searches, generate the data content, blah blah. And we'll query this to be used in our graph applications. Like we want to query to find an information that can be used to answer the user's question and then pass in that information to the user, right? To the LLM, and the LLM can answer the question based on the extracted context. So that's basically it. So now let's see how we can do that. So let me just go back in here, open up my side panel again, create a new file, and I'm going to call this file, I'm going to call it query underscore indexify indexify.py. So query indexify.py, and then you can add in a bunch of code to query Indexify. So I'm going to go ahead and say from Indexify, let me close the side panel. So Indexify, I'm going to go ahead and import the file. So I'm going to call Indexify client right here. And once I'm going to go ahead and create a client, Indexify clients. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say ingested. I'm only going to go ahead and pull in the chunks. So I'm going to go ahead and simply say chunks is going to be equals to the client dot get underscore extracted content, and I'm going to go ahead and pass in right here. So I'm going to say content. Okay, I need to actually get a content from here. So, okay, so I need to go actually get a content from here before I can do that. So, let me just comment this out for now. I'll be back to you just in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and say ingested underscore content is going to be equals to, I'm going to say client dot get no the client dot list underscore list content, and you're going to go ahead and pass in this is the name of the extraction graph that you want to use. So we're going to get extracted content from this extraction graph. Okay, so once I have, I'm going to go with content underscore, let me just say content ID is going to be equals to ingested content. I'm going to go and ingested content. Okay, let's call ingested content the first one, and then they get the you need to get the ID. So just go ahead and simply say dot ID, just like that. So that's basically it. So once we have that right there, you can go ahead and uncomment this code right here, and okay, uncomment that, and you're going to say content is going to be content ID is going to be content ID, and you're going to go ahead and pass in the pipeline that you want to work with again. So I'm going to go ahead and pass in the extraction graph ID. Let me see, let me just pass in this without the key argument. So like this. Let me just also remove the keyword argument right here. Okay, get rid of that. But you can pass them if you want to. You can always just hover on this and see what arguments you need to pass in. So you can pass in the graph name and the content ID. So if you want, you can say content ID, and also here you can go ahead and simply say the extraction graph name. And then from there, you can also go ahead and pass in the policy name, the policy that you want to extract from. And so in this case, you're going to extract chunks. So we're going to extract from the chunk policy. So I'm going to say extract. Sorry, I'm going to say policy name. Policy name, we're going to use the chunker. So if I go back inside of my right here, you can see we have a policy, an extraction policies. We have an extractor with this extractor, and give it a name called chunker. This is the name that you are going to be using right here. Okay. So once I'm going to go ahead and print the chunks. Okay, so once that's all done, so I'm going to go into my terminal again, and I'm going to say Python 3, and it's going to be called basically query Indexify to run this, and that's going to return to me the extracted content. So you can see this is a content about basically Java. So you can see it's right here, right? So Java, JVM, Java Virtual Machine, and all that Java language and all that. So you can see it has extracted the content from the chunking extraction policy. So if you want to get the entities, you'd have to use the entity extractor name. If you want to get embeddings, you can also use the embedding names right here. So that's basically how you can query it. Okay. So you can also use any of these things if you want. If you want, you can change this and get the right information if you want to. Okay. So let's also use let's say embeddings. Did I call it embedding or embedding? So go copy this, go back in here. I think right here, and then paste it right here. It's called embedding. So wiki embedding, let's run that and see if we get any back. So we didn't get back the embeddings actually. So yeah. Okay, so I hope these embeddings have been created. So let's just wait and see if actually this embeddings got created, because it should have returned to me the list of embeddings. But let's just proceed and see if these embeddings have been created. You can also look here right here and just say indexes, wiki embeddings. You should see those embeddings right here. Okay, so for some reason it doesn't show these embeddings on my end. Okay, so let's try to run this and let's see. Okay, created on this date and then extractors, content. Okay. Back indexes, and you can see policy name. Okay, I don't think that should be an issue. Yeah, okay, so let's just proceed, and later we'll find out if this extraction has actually gotten through or we got an error on the way. Okay, so once we have this done, let's go ahead and build a simple RAG application that's going to be going ahead and using OpenAI. Okay, so once you also need to install a couple of things. So we need to install, let me just clear the terminal. We need to pip3 install Python -decouple. Okay, so we're going to install Python decouple, and Python decouple will help us to read our environment variable files, right? So there's pip3 install Python decouple, and let's wait for this to go through. Okay, so I have Python decouple already installed right there. So I'm going to go back in here, open up my side panel, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a new file. Right here, I'm going to call it rag underscore openai.py. So I'm going to build a RAG application with OpenAI, and that's basically it. So we need to import a couple of things. So I'm going to say from OpenAI, I'm going to go ahead and import the OpenAI class right here. So once that's done, I'm going to go down here and say from let me just write that right. So from Indexify, I'm going to go ahead and import Indexify client right here. I just need the client part. Okay, so once I have that those import, I'm going to go ahead and create a client as usual, Indexify client, and I'm going to go ahead and create a client underscore OpenAI, and this is going to be equals the following. So you're going to use the OpenAI, and then you're going to go ahead and do the following. So I'm going to go ahead and simply say API key. So API key, and then you need to go ahead and pass in your OpenAI API key in here. Okay, so whatever your Open API key is, just pass it in here. So what I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new file right here. I'm going to create .env. Then I'm going to go ahead and say OpenAI underscore API underscore key is going to be equals to, and then you pass in your Open API key in here. Okay, so once we have that in here, I'm going to go ahead and say from the couple, I'm going to go ahead and import config. So I'm going to go ahead and simply load it. I'm going to say config, and then get your OpenAI API key right here. That's basically it. So that's what you need to do. So make sure that you have your Open API key specified in here. Okay, so now that you have done that, let's go ahead and then write this function right here. So def, I'm going to call this one is going to be query underscore db, and it's going to be equals to the following. So it's going to be a function right here. You're going to, for us to create a db, you need a question from the user or query from the user. This is going to be of type string. You also need the index name, which is going to be equals also a string. You're going to also specify the top n, right? How many, or the top k or the top n. You can specify this is going to be of type integer right here. So let's go ahead and see what what you're going to do right here. So let me just get rid of all this right here. I don't need all this. So let me get rid of all this as well. So sometimes Copilot can be annoying. So I'm going to say retrieved underscore results is going to be equals to the following. We're going to say client dot search underscore index like this. You're going to search index. So we're going to pass in the name of this index, which is whatever the user provides in, and then you're going to pass in the query. It's going to be equals to the query, and the top n is going to be equals to the top key that you have provided right here. So that's basically it. So once we have that, you're going to go ahead and say context. You're going to just join all of them based using /n, and then /n, and you can also add a new line right here. And you're going to say, basically, you're going to iterate through all of this, and let me just go ahead and so we're going to say for result in retrieved results, what you're going to go, you're going to simply say result, and you're going to go ahead and get the key part of this. So let's say text, just like that. So that's basically it. So for result in retrieve results, you're going to take each result and get the text part of it. So that's basically what you're trying to do right here. So that's going to return to us a context, and you can print out this context and see context right here and see what you get back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now generate a response. So we're going to pass this context to the RAG application, to our OpenAI application, and then expect it to give us a response back. So I'm going to say chat.complete completions.create. So we're going to say create, and then you're going to pass in a couple of things right here. So I'm going to say messages. So message is going to be a list of messages right here. So it's going to be a dictionary. You're going to pass in the first one is going to be role, is a system, and then the content of this message is you're a helpful AI assistant, and then that's basically it. So once we have that done, that's all we need to do. And then from here, I'm also I need to pass this right here, and then I'm going to now close off this message file. So let me just close this off right here, close off this, and then comma, and then in here I'm going to go ahead and add in something else. So I'll move it down here. So I'm going to go ahead and add in something. I'm going to say the model is going to be equals to the OpenAI. We can use a GPT 3.5 Turbo model. Once we have that, you're going to go ahead and return the responses, the choices, the first index.message, and then finally .content. So message.content, just like that. So that's all we want to do. That's basically what this does. So I'm going to say if underscore name. You're going to go what is Python, and you're going to use a Wikipedia extraction pipeline, and then you're going to return the top two, and then finally pass it into the query right here, the index, and also this other name right here. So that's all we need to do. So for the index, you have to go ahead and do something different. So we're going to say pipeline. You're going to say dot. Basically, let me just go in here and show you what I'm trying to access. So we're going to access this right here, .wikipedia embedding. That's what you're trying to do. So let me just copy this right here, and go back in here and then just replace everything in here. So that's what the index you're looking for. So that's basically it. So once we have this done, we should be good to go. So once you have this done, let me just go back in here inside of our code right here, and you say Python 3, basically RAG. Okay, then let's run it and see what we get back. So you can see this is the context right here. It transfers the retrieve information about Python, blah blah, and you can see all that information being returned to us right here. Okay, so once we have the limit, let's just keep a print statement so I can know which actually is the response from the LLM itself. Okay, so let me just go ahead and run that one more time. So we can see how can I assist you today. So it didn't actually answer our question. Just retrieve the context. I don't know if the context has been passed to our LLM. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually figure that out. Okay, so the context has actually been passed to the LLM. So we have to go ahead and adjust our prompt. So help answer the user's question, which is now going to be the user question. So I'm going to go ahead and pass in the question right here. Question based on this provided context, and then you're going to go ahead and add in the context right here. Okay, so this needs to be an F string. Okay, so maybe I need to make this an F string, just like that. So we need to make that an F string. So I don't know, open here. Sometimes co-pilots can be annoying. Oh, I don't need that right there as well. So let's get rid of that as well. So your helpful AI assistant help answer the user question, and then this is the user question based on the provided context, like that. Okay, if let's add if you do not know the answer, simply say I do not know the answer. That's basically. So once we have that done, let's go ahead and clear the terminal and let's try to run this run this one more time. So let's see what we get back. So this is going to take a bit of time. So you can see the retrieve context right here. So Python was invented in the late 1980s by Van Roosson. I hope that's not butchering the name. Okay, so you can see I do not know the answer. So for some reason, we are still getting that back. Okay. Okay, let's ask you something that was retrieved from this context. Let's say when was Python created? Let's say right here and say when was Python created, just like that. And let's try to see if this is gonna get us the right answer. So you can see the information retrieval is actually quite fast. I don't know why we're getting this constantly saying I don't know the answer to this. So let's just take a look at this. So okay, I called it context. Let's see if I have the context passed in. Okay, I don't see that this seems to have an issue. So let's examine this closely. Okay, my bad right here. My bad. This F string actually here. Okay, yeah, so now that should be solved. Perfect. And this is actually question. This is actually not the question, but the query. Right, this is actually the user's query right there. So perfect. So now let's ask it back, what is Python? What is Python? Okay, clear the terminal and let's run that. So you can see now the retrieval part of Indexify is actually very fast. You're retrieving information very fast and you're getting the retrieval very fast. The only part that's taking time is the LLM, because you have to call the API, and that can take a bit of time. So Python is a hell blah blah, and you can see give us information back, and that information was extracted all the way from here, right? Good. So that's basically how this works, and you can just work with it in different ways, ask different questions. Okay, what is Java programming language? And then question mark right there. So if I go ahead and clear the terminal, let's ask about Java. Let's see what, so it retrieve information about Java. Let's wait for the LLM response. So Java is a programming language, blah blah. You can see all that information which has been extracted from here has been used to answer that question right here, right? So the virtual machine, and you can see all that has been JVM has been extracted from here, and yeah, the name of the people right here has been extracted from here as well. If I look close, you can find the name of these guys right here, right? Yeah, so yeah, that's basically it. So that's basically how you can see it talks about C++ for here, and that also has been incorporated into the response. So now you have grounded the LLM's response based on the information that you're retrieving from our Indexify embeddings. So that's basically how all this works together. So I hope now this gives you a good understanding of how Indexify works and how you can connect it to the OpenAI APIs and build different applications, right? So good. So that's all for building this application. So we have already installed Python dependencies, Python decoupled, my bad. So now the last part is now building a Streamlit RAG application. So for us to do this, we need to install a couple of things. So we need to install Streamlit. So I'm going to go back in and say pip install. You're going to install Streamlit. You're also going to go ahead and install Llama-index because you already have Python decoupled installed. So Llama-index, and let's run that. So once it's installed, you're also going to go ahead and install Llama-index Mistral. That's going to help us to interact the Mistral API, the Mistral LLM. So make sure that you have a Mistral API key because you're going to use it right here. Okay. So make sure that you get that Mistral API key, right? So once you get your Mistral API key, you have to go back inside of your virtual environment right here and make sure that you add that Mistral API key. So it will be something of this. So we're going to say all uppercases Mistral underscore API underscore key, and then go ahead and simply add your Mistral API key. So it's gonna be very similar to what we did for OpenAI key, but I can show you because I have my OpenAI API key in there, so I don't want that to be revealed. Okay, so that's basically what you need to do. So now we need to create a file right here. We're going to call it RAG, basically RAG underscore llama index llama-index.py. So you're going to have a file right here, and instead of this file, we're going to add in some content. You're going to get the content from right here. So make sure you just copy this code. Again, I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you the link to this article. This is my article on Medium page, so it has all the code. I'm going to give you the link to this article. I'm also going to go ahead and actually provide you a GitHub repository. You can find all that code. So you can just copy the code in here and go back in here and simply paste in that code in here. So once you have the code in there, you're ready to go. So you can see we have everything there. We're already in the Mistral API key. This function simply queries the database. This one gets for us the AI responses by querying the right database. So now we need to go ahead and actually change this right here. Okay. So now you need to change this now to the tutorial one, which is exactly what we have. So once I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and copy this one right here. And I'm going to go back in here, delete this, and then paste that in right here. So yeah, that's basically it. So once I have that info that's already copied, I can simply go ahead and use that right here. So this actually needs to be context right here, and it's going to say this is a let's see if I have made an error right here, context, and see if okay, that's basically it. That's basically what I want to do right here. Okay, now everything is fine. So this is the context, and the context is going to be retrieved from here and then pass in. So that's basically it. So this is a code that's going to be generating the AI responses. It's going to go ahead and get the context from QueryOurDB database functions. You're going to get the context and then return it back to us. You're passing this context to LLM, getting the response from the Mistral LLM. So once you have this context, you're going to be streaming this content into our Streamlit application, and that's basically how it works. Again, if you have made so many videos on Mistral, on Mistral, on Streamlit, so you can check out the channel. There are a lot of videos on Mistral and Streamlit. So that's basically. So once I have this, I'm going to go ahead and simply save this right here. So once I have that already done, we're already done with the Streamlit application, and they're basically the interface, right, connecting everything together. So now let's go back in here and make sure that you have this, you install this right here, the last command right here, pip install Llama-index, LLMs, and then Mistral AI, right? So make sure that you have this installed. I already did it on my end so that you guys don't have to watch me install it, wasting time installing just to save it on time. I've just already installed because the video is getting too long already. So that's already installed. So once it's installed, I'm going to go back in my terminal and just simply do Streamlit run and then rag underscore Llama-index and then run that file. So that file is already running. So let me just open it up in a new window. Okay, so I have it open up right here, and you can see it's now in a new kind of like new browser window. So I'm going to go ask a question: what is Python used for, and when was it created, and by who? Okay, so I just asked this question: what's Python, when was it created, and by who? So now this should stream the responses live into our terminal. So you can see right here, Python is a high programming language. It was developed by blah in the 1980s. Answer the question of when was it created, and let's see if it answers the question of okay, by who, and it was created by this guy. So what's Python? Answer that question. By who and when? It answered all that question specifically. So you can go ahead and ask different questions about Java. Let me just zoom in right so you guys can see. Let me just ask a question. What is Java? And then let's see what we get, the response we get back. So Java is a high level, blah blah, and you can see the responses right here. So you can see all that response is coming to us, right? So that's basically how the application work and how you can build a simple RAG application on top of your Indexify pipeline, data extraction pipeline. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I hope you guys found this video helpful. And if there is anything else that you guys want me to build something upon, on maybe how to have Indexify run in the cloud, run in production, let me know. Okay, you can do a video on that. So suggest anything, any feedback. What do you think about Indexify? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this video. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Medium, where I actually have the article version of this tutorial, which is this one right here. You can find the article version on Medium. You can also connect with me on YouTube at Code with Prince. You're probably watching this video. You can also find me on Twitter, aka X, at Prince_Cramper, or you can find me on LinkedIn at Prince Cramper. So on LinkedIn, I'm much faster to reply to your messages. So if you have any message that you want to shoot to me, just use an email and LinkedIn, and shoot the email on LinkedIn. I will respond to you as fast as possible. I'm much faster in responding to messages on LinkedIn than any other platform. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and share this with anyone who you think might find it helpful, and let's spread the word of Indexify out there. So thank you guys for watching so much, and see you in the next video. Keep safe.